Frank, I was curious. If I'm not mistaken, you can have contact 4 days a week and 4 hours a day with players. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a 4-hour window. So we use 2 hours of that for meetings, for virtual meetings. And then the other 2 hours is for their workouts, which obviously we're not with them. But what we've been doing is taking like a half-hour segment and presenting them, for lack of a better way, continuing education. Just continuing to instruct and teach the guys on the physical aspect of the game, whether it be nutrition, something in strength training. Rusty and his staff will take a half hour and just kind of teach the guys, let them take notes, and just kind of stay on top of things.
Just a quick follow-up. I mean, you're all about preparation. I mean, I wouldn't say to a fault, but preparation. It is what it is, but what are you getting done? And obviously, what can't you get done until you can get hands-on?
You know what? We're getting a ton done. This has been extremely productive. We don't get the camaraderie to the same level, but we even work at that. I mean, we work at that in the ways that we can. But from a installation, our coaches are doing a phenomenal job. But we always tell the players these meetings are only going to be as good as they are engaged in the meeting. So we try not to make it like lectures. Our install meetings we're trying our best to be very interactive, just like we were in the building. The guys are doing a great job. Coaches are doing a phenomenal job. Players are engaged. I mean, it's been 2 weeks. I can just tell you that they've been incredibly productive. I feel extremely confident that if you went to the men, you get and talk to our players, you're going to get that answer. How worthwhile is this time that we're spending on a scale of 1 to 10? And my guess is the grades are going to be very high.
All right, let's go Zach Kiefer.
Piggybacking off what Chap asked, Frank, you talked about how you're getting better despite the situation. So despite the classroom work and all that, which you'd be doing otherwise, physically, I think some of the guys are working out with each other, like virtually. I mean, can you walk us through that and the challenges of that and how you can still make progress, even though this is a really challenging situation?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like we said from the beginning, we're just a little bit of a trust factor, in the players doing what they're prescribed to do. But, with the technology today, like we have, they all have heart rate monitors. So they do their workouts. It's all logged. It all kind of shoots to our system. So like, for instance, last week, I'm having Rusty and the crew. I want to see all those. Not as this isn't, hey, I'm watching you. This is, hey, I'm interested in you. You guys know me. I'm a little bit of a numbers guy. So I like to see these charts when our guys, and then I'll show them to the team. I'll show, last week I showed Mark Lewinsky a run that he did and how his chart and how the different colors that show up on the chart, what that means, how we talked about, when you get into that 90% of your max heart rate, that shows up red on the chart. And we talk about the advantages of that. And so really the technology that we have can in some ways hold us accountable, but I guess we're holding them accountable, but I'm assuming that guys want to do this, that guys want to get into the red, so to speak. That's kind of what we've been talking about with them. Hey, get into the red, because there's things that happen in your body that only happen when you get there. So and then like you said, Zach, we're trying to encourage, hey, and I know this happened last week a couple times where guys, they Zoom or FaceTime each other. One guy's running at one field, another guy's running in another city. And at the start of each rep, they go. And then in between reps, a quick word. And I think we're just trying to have some fun with it.
Okay, Kevin Bowen.
Frank, thanks for doing this. You mentioned at the end of the season just a kind of list of things you guys wanted to get better at. You included yourself in that. So I guess what specifically going into year 3 as a play caller and as a head coach do you want to get better at?
Well, one thing I definitely want to get better at is I think I can do a better job, supporting the coaches, in all 3 phases. I told the guys the other day, I felt like really you gear so much energy and effort towards the players, but part of being the head coach is, coaching the coaches and holding the coaches accountable and being involved on every level, as the head coach. So I think I can do a better job there. Just giving coaches feedback along the way, encouragement along the way, observations. So that's definitely one area that I think I can grow in. As far as offensively, just how do we eliminate those games where it feels like we get stuck? What happened in those games that we got stuck? Was it schematic? Did the defense have something on us that we didn't know? Just taking a look back at some of those games, trying to figure out, hey, when we get in a lull offensively, what gets us out of lull? Studying those kind of things as a play caller, and seeing, hey, we need to do. It seems like when we did this, that helped get us out, or this didn't work. What are the little things that gave us a spark? How can we do more of that? Those are a couple areas that I've looked at.
Okay, Mike Wells.
Hey, Frank, I'm going to piggyback off of Chap and Zach's question. When you have a quarterback like Phillip, I know he knows some of your system. In this type of situation, when you're doing this virtual, how much input does he have in this? How does this work with him being the quarterback as you guys are going through this process?
He's the quarterback. As you guys know, our quarterbacks have a lot of input. Now, hey, there's no question who's running the meeting. Nick runs those meetings. I'm in most of the quarterback meetings. Marcus does a great job. And we're installing the offense, but our ears are always open to what the quarterbacks had to say, really what all of our players had to say. But our players do a good job and have the maturity to know, what that means and what it doesn't mean. And Phillip, just because of our existing relationship with Nick and I and our existing relationship with him, it's literally like riding a bike. We're laughing and joking about how it's just like we've never, kind of been together the whole time. So a very quick reacclimation to that. We know what Phillip likes. Phillip kind of knows how we think, but at the same time, we've brought some new things. He's brought some new things. And that's been fun. It's been exciting to hear some of the things that he's learned over the last few years. And he's been equally as eager to hear kind of what we've learned over the last few years as well.
Okay, Bob Kravitz. Hang on, Bob, you got to unmute. Bob, start again.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, good deal. All right. Well, we know that Jacob has got a gun for a right arm. I'm just wondering, when you get your hands on him eventually, what are some of the things that you want to work with him most closely on? Where does he need to improve the most?
Yeah, he does have a gun for an arm. So we're always going to be working on improving accuracy. I think his accuracy is solid. It can get better and it has to get better. So that's usually a byproduct of footwork and how you think in your progressions and how fast you can get to the right guy. So we'll work hard with him on that, the fundamentals and technique of the footwork that we want and how to sync that up. But then also the mental part of accuracy is not just physical, it's also mental. You got to be going to the right place with the ball. That helps your completion percentage. So we'll work with that. The other area that we'll continue to work on is, just pocket awareness, making those when you got the arm that he has and you can throw from the pocket the way that he can, you just want to continue to work on those little subtle movements in the pocket and the pocket instincts and awareness that you have. And then for a big guy, he's pretty athletic. So how do you turn some of your athleticism and your arm talent into big plays? So those are a couple of things that we've identified that we'll try to develop.
Thanks.
Okay. Jim Aiello.
Hey, Frank, thanks for doing this. I was just curious. We saw in that next pick video, we saw Nick kind of freak out, getting really excited when you guys got Michael and Jonathan. But I wanted to ask about Michael specifically. Just, after you made that pick, do you guys start drawing up plays right away for a guy like that? Or did you guys maybe start making plans ahead of time for something like that? And then there's been a lot of talk about how this affects, playing across from T.Y., but I was curious, how does the inclusion of Michael affect maybe Paris too in this offense?
Yeah, no. And the way we do our receivers, right? We envision Michael as being the X receiver, and believe that he can develop into that pretty quickly. He's obviously going to have to prove that, but we're very optimistic that he will. So the way the X receiver is, for lack of a better way to say it, it's the guy that you want to put when you're in a trips right and he's singled into the boundary, and you can throw one-on-one to him. And there's a handful of routes that you want to throw to him in there. So yeah, you think about those things when you pick a guy. You think, okay, we can throw these 5 things to him right away. Those things come to you right away. But it's not just about that. It's about how the receivers complement each other. And I think that the offensive staff does a really good job. We work really hard at moving guys around. So he'll be the X receiver, but we're still going to get T.Y. where we want to get him. We're still going to continue to develop Paris. Zach Pascal is going to be he's a big part of what we're doing. So we'll move guys around. We're going to continue to always do that, but we do envision Michael as that X receiver that every now and then you can just say, hey, they're playing a lot of man coverage. Let's put him into the boundary and throw one-on-one and expect him to win.
Okay, Stephen Holder.
Actually, this wasn't my question, but I'll just ask since it hasn't come up. Today's, I think, the deadline for 5th-year options. Do you have any news on Malik or no?
Not yet. We'll have an update on that a little bit later this afternoon.
Okay, I had to throw it out there. Can I answer my actual question now?
Absolutely.
So actually kind of piggybacking on the Michael Pittman question, the last few drafts, the last couple drafts when you've been here, a lot of that was concentrated on the offensive side, was concentrated more on offensive line initially, obviously, and building from the inside out. When you get some skill position pieces like you did in this draft, I mean, I understand you're the coach of the whole team, granted, but that being said, some part of you has to have just sort of a real emotional excitement level about that. Just what was that like for you to just kind of to be the offensive play caller and to get these pieces? What's that like? And as Jim said, do your wheels immediately start turning with?
Yeah, it is exciting. It is exciting to see how they all complement one another. And I mean, one thing that we all know, right, is that it doesn't revolve around any one player, but it's how they complement each other and how we can build upon it. So yeah, I think that as we look back to how the team has been built from the inside out on both sides of the ball, that's really been the focus. And I think we've done a really good job of that. And this was an opportunity to get some playmakers. And, you get a guy like Michael who can be on the outside, who can be that one-on-one guy, who can be that big guy, good on the 50-50 balls down the field, and yet the speed to still run by you. And so that not every throw is a 50-50 ball. He's going to run by some guys. I really believe that. And then with Jonathan, right, the whole idea is, just turn those, as I've said before, turn those 5-yard runs into 50-yard runs. You have a guy with that kind of speed, vision, and explosiveness, and now you got him and Marlon doing that together, and you feel like, and then running behind our offensive line, and you get that 1-2 punch. You just think, you get excited, like you're saying, Stephen, about the play action game. You get even more excited about the play action game. You get even more excited about, hey, we did a pretty good job last year on explosive runs, but how many more are we going to have? What does that mean to the offense? How do we use that to set things up? How does that take the pressure off the defense? Those are all things that, we get real excited about.
Andrew Walker.
Hey, Frank. Haven't really had a chance to ask you about the signs of Trey Burton and Roosevelt Nix yet. With Nix specifically, you now have the option utilizing a true fullback, maybe for the first time in this offense. And I know you used Ryan Hewitt in that role a couple of years ago, but having a dedicated guy like Nix, what impact do you envision that potentially having on the offense? And did you feel that element was missing last year?
Yeah, I did feel it was missing a little bit last year. And, we're primarily one-back offense, and we won't change from that. But when you go back to 2018 and we had Hewitt and we could do a little bit of that, and we just think Rosie fits that mold. Obviously he's a great special teams player, but can also help in the two-back offense stuff. So, I would envision, right? I mean, he's got to stay healthy, and we can have some other guys who can back him up and supplement the role that he plays. But we would just kind of roll out some of our two-back package like we did in 2018 and have it further develop as it succeeds. And where I could envision it being 10 to 20% of the offense. Let's just say that would be the goal, that it's somewhere between 10 to 20% of the offense. There's things that you can do in a two-back offense, run and pass game, that are unique. It's a way to be more multiple in the run game. It's a way to keep teams guessing a little bit more in the run game. One hand, you say, well, they can stack the box more, but there's other advantages that you can have offensively that we'll try to utilize, and think Rosie's a good fit for that.
Okay, we're going to go three more. George Bremer.
Coach, when you going back to the video, you were talking about Pittman and how early you were on him and the process. What did you see so early on that gave you such conviction with him?
With Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Size, speed, body quickness, good feet for a good route runner for a big man. A lot of times big guys they win with size and strength, but I saw he's a good technician. I saw him running routes in college and winning on routes that we run in our offense. So it was easy to translate, short to intermediate routes that we like to throw to that type of receiver, a big, strong receiver that we haven't been able to do as much of, but that we've done in our past, but we just haven't had the right body type for that. So a lot of those showed up on tape, but also the plays down the field. We all know, right? One of the goals is for us to get our yards per attempt up higher where it needs to be. So, and that takes everybody. And so I think he can help add to that as well.
Okay, we'll go Joel Erickson.
Frank, I'm going to try to do what Steven did and get the housekeeping question out of the way before I ask my real question. But Adam said he wanted to play. Adam Vinatieri said he wanted to play again. Did you talk to him? Any update on that?
No update. Just letting the rehab process finish its course before any final decision has been made, and then get together with Adam once he gets to that point.
And then the real one is you guys ran it a lot more than the Chargers have run it with Phillip in the last 3 years or so. How much do you think it'll help Phillip just maybe taking some throws off of him and letting the running game do a little bit more of the work than maybe they did in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I think in 18, I think you're right. I do think in 18, I don't see their stats in 18, but I think when they went 12-4 with him playing quarterback, I think they ran it pretty well. I'm not sure what the numbers were, but that's what it felt to me watching the tape. But there's no question that he has been at his best when the run game has been good. Even in 13, when we first got there, when Nick and I were first there, and I was the quarterback coach in 13, and he had statistically one of his better years, and we ran the ball well that year in 13. Then you go back and look at the years with LT and how effective he was in the pass game. He's always been great in the pass game, but I don't think any doubt that he's been most efficient and played his best football when he has a good run game. And, even though I don't think Phillip has lost anything physically, I really think he's the same player he was 5 years ago physically. And he's taking good care of his body. I just think he's at a stage in his career where this is the right thing. This is a great move for him. He's a great fit for us. And I think he's going to welcome playing behind this offensive line and handing the ball off more and not have to throw it 35 times a game to win.
Phil B. Wilson.
Yeah, Frank keeps shaking when he talks. That's amazing. How does he do that? It's like it's bobbing up and down when you're talking. So.
Oh, well, thank you for that. You know what it is? I see what it is. I have my computer on a box.
Okay, all right.
Set it at eye level.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Shaking. Thank you for that.
I didn't want to be a jerk or anything, but I wanted to ask you about two guys. I think Andrew asked you about Trey Burton earlier, and is it a matter of just staying healthy for him? And then secondly, we're talking to Darius Leonard later in the week, what it means, the peace of mind to have a guy like that, what he's done in 2 years, what he means to your defense as a leader.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited about Trey. Obviously was with Trey in Philadelphia. Trey is a big-time playmaking tight end. This guy is an incredible route runner, really smart and instinctive player. I think he fits a big need in our offense. You know that spot in our offense gets a lot of attention. And so I think he can step into that role that Ebron was in. He'll play it different than Ebron would play it. It'll look different. We'll scheme different things up for Trey than we did for Ebron. Some of them will be different, but that role gets highlighted schematically in certain ways. And I expect Trey, if, assuming he's going to stay healthy, will have a very productive year. And Darius, I just think this is year 3 for Darius. He's been a consistent playmaker, and his leadership has continued to grow, and just excited about him, continuing to do that, making plays on the ball, being the consistent player that he is. This guy's been everything you want. The thing I love most about Darius is the way he practices, how much energy he brings to practice. I think it's contagious. I think he's been a good leader in that regard.
Okay, last question here. It's going to be JoJo Gentry.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach. How would you describe the energy that Malik brings to this team on?
I think this last year was I was really excited about, in 18, Malik was hurt a little bit. You're talking about Malik Hooker, right?
Yes.
Yeah. In 18, Malik was coming off that injury and got better as the year went on. Last year, I really felt like Malik had a really good year. You could really feel his presence. I thought physically, I felt Malik's presence on the field. And I think, Malik's not the most outgoing, bubbly personality. He's got a lot of juice and intensity in him. And I think you really saw that come out last year when he was healthy, when he started playing real physical, and making plays on the ball. So really excited and expecting big things from him this year.
Okay, thank you guys very much. We appreciate it. Thank you, Coach.
Matt.
Yes, sir.
I just got one, since I didn't give an opening deal, just one closing thing, right, for the group. Yesterday, I had a chance to speak to do a little recorded thing, and I was just reminded in this situation that we're in, and we were talking about this. I was talking about this with the group, is that we were talking about when you feel the situation when with this pandemic, the crunch on the economy, the pressure that everyone feels, and at different levels. And I was just reminded personally, as I was thinking about this, trying to give a message to a particular group. And what hit me was that the analogy I used was being a quarterback in the pocket. And when you're pressured, you feel that, but you can't focus on it. You still have to find ways to make plays, right? But the analogy was this, that the greater the pressure, sometimes the bigger the opportunity. So in other words, when a team runs blitz zero, when the circumstances are the most difficult, when there's a pandemic, when the economy's going to, people are not working, and the pressure that is felt from that, from businesses and personally, that just sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes, like in football, those opportunities create blessings in disguise, ways to be creative, ways to create new solutions, ways to discover things that maybe we wouldn't have discovered anyway. I think we're all finding that. I'm finding that personally in the way that we're spending our time as a football team, personally in my own life. And so, my encouragement is to Colts Nation is, as hard and difficult as this time is, let's just all of us together keep creatively finding ways to help each other, and find solutions to get us all through this. So when the pressure is the greatest, sometimes there's the greatest opportunity for the big play, and maybe we can find ways to do that in our families and in our businesses.